Once again, thank you for being here and your coverage all year, and happy Thanksgiving to all of you and all of your families. I'll quickly recap Notre Dame. Clearly a bad result. I thought in the first half we did a lot of things well to make it a competitive football game. And really felt we should have been down 14-10 at the half. And again, even getting down there 17-7 and starting with the football in the second half, I thought we could give it a go and make it a competitive game. And clearly the start of the second half wasn't good. The turnover, the missed assignment, and all of a sudden it was 24-7. And to me, that changed the entire game. And I think from that point on, they wore us down. Clearly the game got out of hand a little bit, and they took us to us pretty good. So as I said after the game, they're a really good football team. Clearly they're better than we are right now. That was a game that we had to do a lot of things extremely well and win the margins to be competitive in, and clearly we weren't. So we move forward in a game that might be our last game of the year or not. We have to take care of our business. And that's to beat Syracuse, on the road in the Dome, which is never an easy task. These games have always been competitive. I almost feel like this is our second home. This is our fourth game there in the last 5 years. We played there in 19, which was a very competitive game that they won in overtime. We then went up there in 20 when they redid the COVID schedule, and then went up there in 21, which was an overtime win for us when AT made that unbelievable catch in the corner of the end zone. So these games are always very competitive. It seems like they come down, two of the last four have gone to overtime. And, it's a different Syracuse team. Obviously, they have an interim head coach for one game. On offense, I really don't know what's going on with them at quarterback. They kind of broke out a lot of the Wildcat stuff with the tight end Villari and the running back Allen. They sometimes have a quarterback on the field. They broke it out against Pitt and had a lot of success with it. And then last week against Georgia Tech, they had a little time to prepare for it. So we have no idea if Schrader's playing, if, Del Rio Wilson's playing or Davis is playing. So we're kind of getting ready for everything. Defensively, Syracuse has always been good. They run that 3-3 stack, and Tony White left and went to Nebraska, and Rocky Long, who is really the architect of this defense, is running it, and they're extremely well coached, and they know what they're doing. And on special teams, again, very well coached units. All of their units on special teams are like top 3, top 4, top 5 in the league. So we're going to go up there, and we know this is our one last guaranteed opportunity. Try to make the very most of it. I will say this. I think our football team, in my 24 years of being a head coach, clearly not every season I've had is a winning season. Of all the teams I've had that maybe this season didn't go the way they wanted to, this team has practiced hard, stuck together as well as any team I've ever coached. I'm really proud of them. The leadership of our football team this year has been outstanding, and they still make coming to work every day a joy. I mean, we went out and practiced today, and you'd have no idea if we were an 11-0 team or a 4-7 team. And I'm grateful that we have players here at Wake Forest that, made that beginning of the season commitment to each other. And a lot of people make commitments but don't live commitments, and these guys have lived their commitment to Wake Forest, our football program, and each other. So we're going to have another 2 days and have Thanksgiving dinner with them on Thursday, and then we'll head up to Syracuse on Friday, and we'll give it a great go on Saturday. I have no doubt the effort will be there. With that, I'll take questions.
How hard is it to plan when you don't know what to expect from an offense? Is there any game film that provides you any insight at all as to how to plan accordingly?
Yeah, there's 11 games of game film, and there's 9 games that they play with a quarterback, and there's 2 games they're playing without. So those, you're really getting ready for 2 different offenses. That you're saying if, number 89 or number 1 are behind the quarterback, these are all the different things they can do. These are all the different motions and running plays and screens and trick plays. And then if number 6 or 16 or 10 back here, here's their conventional offense, which even when 6 was back there, the offense wasn't that conventional. I think the last game he played, he ran it way more than they threw it. So they were doing a lot of the things with Schrader that they're now doing in the Wildcat with 1 in 89. So I have, we're preparing for both, and that's kind of how we've organized practice.
We've heard a lot this year about practices being good. Curious how high on your priority list as you evaluate the season after it ends will be figuring out how practice hasn't translated to games.
You know what, Connor? I think if you just look at it, we're just probably across the board, maybe not as good as we've been the last few years. We lost, I think, 15 starters from last year's team, and then you lose Donovan Green, and then you lose Chase Jones, and I think we have good players. But very similar to 2020 and in 2019, we had a pretty good football team. And then, we lost Sage Surratt, and we lost Jamie Newman, and we lost Scotty Washington, and we lost a lot of good players. And then in 20, we had good players, but they were playing for the first time. And that was Sam's first year back as the quarterback, and we were starting to break in Jacory Roberson and Keyshawn Williams and Taylor Marin, and A.T. Perry was playing for the first time. And on defense, Luke Masterson was still at safety, and Jasir Taylor was just starting to come into his own. And that year we were 4-5. And we got almost all those players back for 21. And sometimes players just need to get experience. And sometimes when you're in a winning program, when they play for the first time, they find out it's harder than they realize. So to me, the fact that we're still practicing well is very hopeful for where we're going to be in a year if we can get a lot of these guys to come back. I've mentioned a number of times we only start 4 seniors. Now, do we get 18 starters back, or who knows? That's going to be the merry-go-round we go through in the next 3 weeks. But I still think we have good players that learned a lot this year and gained valuable experience. And I'm hoping all that experience is going to be used to help Wake Forest football next year, and not Notre Dame or Alabama or USC. And that'll be our battles, I would say in the next few weeks. But the reality of is those battles have already started. So the fact that we're practicing well, to me, is very encouraging. And again, I thought we'd take a little bit of a step back this year just because of what we lost. I'm disappointed we took as big of a step back as we have, but I still think we have good players that if we can get them back next year, if you get 18 guys back or even 16 guys back, right? And if each one of those guys gets a little bit better, and some of these young players we're playing now, I think, are going to be really good, you can take a big collective jump. I don't think anyone thought after 2020 that we'd win 11 games in 21. And so sometimes jumps are not linear, they're big. So my hope is we'll keep these guys and take a big jump next year. Clearly, we have some problems that need fixed, and I'm not ignoring that. I mean, we have some holes that we've got to try to find a way to fill, but I think in some positions, there's some units, the whole unit could come back. And if that happens, I'm very bullish about where we'll be in a year.
What's the biggest hole?
Oh, I'm not going to go there now. I mean, we've had, inconsistent play at different positions. And again, clearly, I'll say it, we've got to get the quarterback thing figured out. I also know that some of those years, we left the season not feeling like that was a good position, and it turned out to be a good. And I'm not saying that we're not going to uncover every stone we can to try to fix it. But we also have quarterbacks in our program that we're hoping that they'll develop and get better too. So clearly, we've got to play much better at quarterback than we have this year. It's really hard for any offense to play at a high level if you're not getting good quarterback play. But certainly, we went through a few years that we weren't sure about John and we weren't sure about Sam, and I'm not saying that will happen. I think we've got to let the position compete in the spring. We're not going to name a starter going into the spring. That will be an open competition, and whoever wins that job, whether they're on the roster now or not on the roster now, it'll be the best quarterback.
And what do you do in terms of Matthew Dennis right now? Someone who showed incredible consistency for a year and a half, but has missed his last 4. How do you kind of handle that both now and long term?
What Matthew did last year and up until the Duke game this year wasn't an accident. Clearly there's talent there. To me, kicking, long snapping, those type of things are such unique skills. It's like sometimes I go out there and I'm not a very good golfer, but on that second hole, if I start slicing it, I'm going to lose a lot of balls that day. And I just think this week, there's going to be a competition, at kicker, and we're just going to kind of give Matthew, he won't kick this week. We just got to get him right. And, Caleb and Tyler are competing for the job this week. And, so those two are going back and forth. And I just think, sometimes as a kicker or a long snapper, you just kind of get to a spot that the harder you work at it, the worse it gets. And we just got to give him a chance to recover and work with his kicking coach. And again, he's very talented. He's very skilled. What he did the first year and a half is not an accident. But clearly he's not in a really good place right now. And he'll travel with us. He'll be up there. But I don't see him kicking field goals or extra points this week.
Dave, how important is a game like Saturday where it'll give you an opportunity to potentially get a bowl opportunity where you get those extra practices to help develop and make those progressions that you were just talking about?
I just want to win a game right now. It's been a while. So we're on a little bit of a losing streak, and I just want that feeling in the locker room after a game that we were successful, and I want our players to have that feeling. And, if 14 or 16 different things break our way that allows us that extra opportunity, then that'd be great. You always like to get those extra practices, and, bowl trips are always fun experiences for the team. But I think right now with where we are, we gotta focus on this week and getting better and making sure we're going up there well prepared and to have that experience. And if this week is our last game, I'd love to send those guys out with a win and have that good feeling. And if we're able to do that and enough things break our way and there's an opportunity to play a 13th game, we'd love to do it.
Dave, when I worked up in Syracuse, Coach Babers always talked about this matchup and the relationship that you guys had, and how we always look forward to coaching you. Obviously, Coach isn't there any longer, but speak about his tenure at Syracuse and the relationship that you guys had. Going into this game, you mentioned earlier how competitive they've been over the last good while here.
Yeah, so Dino and I really didn't know each other, and we quickly met each other after he got the Bowling Green job, and I hadn't unpacked my office yet. Because 2 days after I left Bowling Green, I was here, and because they had a bowl game, I didn't realize the search would go so quickly. So the athletic director at the time, Chris Kingston, called me and said, hey, just by the way, we're going to hire somebody tomorrow. Like I had to sprint to Bowling Green, and I'm really like packing boxes in my office as he's moving in. I felt bad and really didn't know him well. And then when he got the Syracuse job, we got to know each other really well in league meetings. And I really liked Dino. We became friends. And, I think in the ACC, different schools have different challenges. And a lot of times Dino and I would talk about the different challenges of our job and how they were very similar. He was very well liked. Dino's one of the nicest, most friendly, outgoing coaches. I think he truly loved the kids he coached. And he's a good man. And anytime good people get let go, it's always, I like Dino. And so I feel bad for him, but it's the profession we've chosen. And, we fight that day off as long as we possibly can because we love our job and we love the people we do it with and we love the young men that we're charged with leading. And I'm sure he's hurting right now. And I know some people will say, well, he'll be fine. He got this huge buyout. No coach wants that buyout. None of us. We enjoy doing what we do and we love the job and we love who we do it with and we love the players we coach. And so to say that, he's fine, and again, I don't know what his buyout is or the details of his contract. No coach ever wants their tenure to end that way. And, so he was there 8 years, which is probably, twice as long or 1.5 times as long as the average tenure at one of these jobs. And he's a good man. He was well respected. And sometimes with the coaches you compete against, you actually become better friends with them after they're out of it because you're not recruiting against each other and playing against each other. So I like Dino a lot, and I wish him the best and had a lot of respect for him.
For the last 3-4 years, we've started seeing where coaches get fired earlier. And you don't wait until the end of the season now in a lot of cases. You're getting fired earlier mid-November. In your mind, what made that change?
Right now, with so many things in college football, right, the tail is wagging the dog. We don't want players to opt out, yet athletic directors fire coaches with a month left in the season. And I think there's got to be a way of, let a coach finish the season, have the players finish the season, and then maybe create a bigger gap before you start recruiting and go on the road. But what happens now is because of when the transfer portal opens, because when recruiting starts, because of when the early signing date is, if you wait till the end of the season, you're then worried you're going to lose all your players because they haven't met the new coach, and you're going to lose all your recruits. And if you don't make the move early, you end up falling further behind. And again, I just think it's hypocritical that, when a player opts out or decides not to play in a bowl game or finish the season or announce they're going to the transfer portal, the players are being portrayed as quitting on their team, and yet athletic directors are firing coaches with a month left in the season. One of the things that we say to our players is, when you sign up for this in the beginning of the year, the commitment's to finish it. And for the Syracuse seniors who were all recruited by Coach Babers, who all chose to play for him, for them on their senior day to play their last game, not for the head coach and with the head coach they chose to play for, I think is wrong. But I also get the reality of the business of it, that if you're the athletic director at Syracuse, if you know you're going to do this, you can't afford to wait because you might lose your best candidates and you want to have someone in place before the portal opens. Is that a balanced answer?
Early signing day need to be either earlier or pushed back just to the February signing date again?
So this is where the whole calendar right now is just so screwed up because the portal opens in early December. And so for guys who want to enroll in other schools in January, you can't delay the opening of that, right? So the problem is that you have all these high school players that are committed to schools, and they've been committed for 6 months, a year, 18 months. And then what happens is when the portal opens, if a coach then finds a player in the portal that he likes better than the high school player he signed, they end up dumping these high school guys a week before signing date because they found someone in the portal that's better. And so it's really not fair to the high school player, you know, and again, this is where we're all hypocritical, right? If a player decommits, we're all mad at him, but the amount of coaches right now that are dumping players that have committed to them for 6 months, a year, or longer because suddenly somebody became available in the portal, you know, so I think in some ways, you know, let's say the signing date was December 1st, so that any high school player that you committed to, that committed to you, you have to take him. And you can't then dump him once the portal opens. You know what I'm saying? If the signing date was just a week before that, and these are for the players that know they want to go somewhere, and then if you fire your head coach, you're at risk of losing all your recruits. And so it kind of evens it up a little bit. Does that make sense? You know, so I'm not for, and again, I'm on the AFCA Board of Trustees, and we discuss these things, and some people want an August or a July signing date. I'm not in favor of that. You know, let's say you're a quarterback, and the reason you went to school, you know, whatever, Southwest State, and the reason you picked that school is because they have a senior quarterback, and the coach is telling you you'll come in the spring and compete for the job. The senior gets hurt, another freshman steps in, and he's the conference rookie of the year. The circumstances have changed of why that player picked your school. So I think if the signing date was December 1st, you know, the Monday after the season, that you now were able to see the whole season play out and you're still committed to that school, great, and then open the portal up. That way 16 and 17-year-olds aren't getting dumped the day before signing date. And I mean, we tell recruits that if we commit to you, we've never done that. But now not doing it almost puts you at a little bit of a disadvantage. But again, we're able to sleep at night. Now the kids still dump us. But as I tell our coaching staff and others, we're still supposed to be the adults in this business. So I'm on my soapbox a little bit here. But you asked. So that would be, I'm in favor of have the early signing date before the portal opens. And that way the players that are committed, that you're committed to, you don't have the option of dumping them because somebody else became available in the portal that you like better. You like that idea?
I'm good to give you your soapbox whenever you need it.
But would you agree with that, or, okay? So.
It makes more sense than the August and July when you lay it out the way you did.
Yeah, I just think things change. You know, or you love this offensive coordinator and that's who you want to go play for, and they have such a great year, he becomes the head coach somewhere else. To me, during the season, a lot of the reasons you pick the school, so many of those circumstances can change.
Yesterday, a friend of yours, colleague, Coach Elko, made the quote that we're about 3 weeks away from the wild, wild west and anarchy, I think was his exact. Even we've changed, we've put guardrails back up on the transfer portal. Is it really still going to be that bad?
Yeah. And Mike Elko is one of the smartest assistant coaches I've ever had work for me. And I would argue that wild, wild west has already started. I mean, we are having player meetings now and these are kids I trust and believe, and they're sharing what they've already been offered by other schools. So it's now the public is going to see the anarchy in a couple of weeks, but trust me, behind the scenes, all this, it's all going on now. I mean, it's really, right? You got to laugh sometimes so you don't cry. It's insane, and but it is the new reality, and there's no point in complaining about it. You know, we saw it last week in South Bend, right? I mean, it's, you know, here's a guy that we recruited and we developed, and, you know, they're putting a video on him saying, "We will always love you." And I'm like, you only dated him for a couple of months. It can't be love. We're the ones that love him. We had 5 years with him. You rented him for a season. So, and that's, they bought him and rented him for a year, and now they love him. So it's, that when that video played, it's just like, holy cow, this is where college football is. So.
You realize that quote's about to go up everywhere.
Whatever. I'm past the point. I mean, it is what it is, right? And again, Sam and I had a great discussion before the game and after the game, and I love the young man, I really do, and I don't blame him at all for what he did. I mean, you can't have, that's the system now, and for him to have the opportunity, to have that experience and make that type of money in 1 year, who can fault him? So I've never ever been critical of Sam or how he handled it or what he did. That's the system, but the reason that I've got into coaching, was to develop relationships, and I loved having guys for 5 years. Like I played college basketball and college football and had a little bit more success with football than basketball in college. I would not want to do what Steve Forbes does. I mean, all of those programs are 1 year guys. I love that I've had 6 years with Michael Juergens and 7 years with Spencer Clapp and 5 years with Jabari Williams. I mean, that's how you develop relationships with people. I love that Patrick Osterhage, every time he comes back here, wants to see me and tells me what's up with his family, or Nate Gillum comes back. Jake Benzinger, we rehire. Chuck Wade is now working for us. To me, that's the value and the love of coaching, not to just have a guy for one season, but we're going to probably have to start doing that a little bit more to remain competitive. And I get it, and we're willing to do it, and we did that with Jacob Roberts. I don't want to be a hypocrite. We've certainly done that with players, but the relationships I enjoy are the 4, 5, and 6 year relationships.
Anything else for Coach Travis?
All right, thanks.